back to Hope at Dawn, right here at Hope TV. This is where you look and live. My name is George Kishoro.
And my name is Beatrice Watara. It's time for the newspaper review. What do we have in the Standard?
In the Standard, I think it's the same thing we are having in the Daily Nation. And this
Okay.
is the announcement that was being made yesterday by the Interior Cabinet Secretary. And this is in as far as the war against the illicit liquor is concerned. And the Standard, they're going with the headline, All-Out War on Alcohol Abuse. Double-edged, the government has unveiled a raft of radical measures to fight illicit alcohol and alcoholism.
Yeah.
This move applauded by campaigners who want the vice declared a national disaster. However, liquor industry stakeholders are warning the move could bring struggling sector down to its knees. And the story is covered on pages 8 and 9. Some of the new tough measures that were announced yesterday by the government. And it's that licenses of second-generation alcohol producers are suspended. Existing licenses to be vetted afresh within 21 days. Manufacturers are to set up quality control labs with mandatory new licenses. Product traceability from factory to consumer is also now required. Licenses for outlets acting contrary to the law revoked. We have strict operation hours for bars and outlets. Manufacturers to report counterfeits to authorities. Officers abetting or colluding with offenders to be charged. Public officers barred from engaging in liquor business. Landlords renting bar spaces in prohibited areas to be liable, and vehicles and buildings involved in illegal liquor activities to be seized.
Wow. And actually, just to add to what the landlords are being asked to do to be held liable for renting out a space for establishment of bars and wines, I see here that bars located within 300 meters of schools and residential areas to lose their licenses. This is quite interesting because now we are seeing the fact that even bars that have been located very close to residential areas, they are going to also lose their licenses. And just to add at what we have here on that same story is that all vehicles and buildings used in storage, manufacture and trafficking of illegal drugs, illicit brews and alcohol will be seized and deemed to be government property.
Wow.
Additionally, I see Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua suspended all licenses of second-generation alcohol manufacturers and distillers pending fresh vetting and ordered the closure of bars within 300 meters of schools and residential areas as part of 25 new strict rules to curb rampant alcohol abuse in the country. But will the government's renewed war on the menace succeed this time round? Because we have had a lot of things happening. But I believe that this year something different will happen.
Yeah, but also I feel and I think and I pray that there will be consistency in as far as this war against alcohol abuse is concerned. And for me, and I have heard so many people complain, is that if the government, and by the government I mean the provincial administration, the chiefs, the assistant chiefs, those people who are within the provincial administration, because these things cannot operate without the knowledge of these people. So even as we are having this war, it should go down, we narrow down to respective villages, respective estates, because those areas, they have either a chief, an assistant chief, a person from the national government representing the national government at that level. And so if we have a seriousness from that particular level, I think that's the only way we will have a victory and success in this war. But I have had people who are complaining and they are saying, you know why the war against such is not successful? It is because this allegedly, a section of them, they have their cut from the same, and so there is no way they can beat their own business,
giving them
income. And so if the government is serious, it has to start there. And for me, again, I say, if you find someone who is a provincial, an officer of the government, and the same is happening in their locality, don't transfer that person. You're just transferring that problem to another region. So if they have not toed the line and directives as issued, please
waambie tu nyinyi endeni biashara ingine.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
up until it affects you, it is then you will know the pain that families are going through.
Yes.
And you know, it's not just in central Kenya. It's now spreading across
Everywhere.
the entire country. Families
Yes.
are crying. Parents are crying for their children. You know, families are crying for their fathers, for their
Yeah.
mothers, for their sons, for their daughters. And so if this is intensified, I believe we can head somewhere.
That's true.
Yeah,
And you've
yeah.
mentioned daughters, and it's so unfortunate because right now, you know, back then,
Yeah,
when it
yeah,
came to
it was.
women, this was something shied off by
Yes.
women, you know, but
Sadly,
now
sadly, I
the
had
is there.
someone say this, and of course they were making it as a joke.
Yeah.
But for me, it was so painful because
Yeah.
the person said daughters are now drinking more than their fathers.
Oh my.
And that
Oh my.
slapped me different because
my.
it was meant to be a joke, but I didn't see the
It
joke
is not
in
because
that
it is
statement.
true.
Yeah.
It is. There's a lot of truth in that because right now I've observed,
Yeah.
even when it comes to advertisements of alcohol, do you
The
notice
face.
that nowadays it's women
Yes.
being the face? And
Yes.
I was looking through, you know, those billboards, and I'm like, where did we go wrong?
Exactly.
Because now it's no longer men.
No.
It's women.
It's women.
Because, you know, all these companies have realized that women are even consuming more than men. And, you know, on women, it has adverse effects.
Yes.
More adverse effects in terms of childbirth, in terms of them showing up for their families, in terms of depression. I mean, nowadays you walk in town and you just see a woman who literally has overdrunk. Nani mchana.
Yep.
Unashindwa, where did we go wrong? I think this is a reason to pray. But I also feel we need to put selfishness aside
Yeah.
when it comes to government. Because when you are running after what you can get in your pocket
Yeah.
and other families are losing, trust me, God is going to come for you too.
True,
You
true.
know?
So let's hope that we sustain this battle and
Yeah.
eventually we will win it because families are hurting.
That's true.
Families are hurting. All right.
Yes.
So then there is another story twist as the best lands court judge in 2020 faces axe. So that's a story you can find on page 12 inside the Standard, and they are saying they are talking about. That is on page 12. You can read that story, what's happening there. Then there's a special report on pages 6 and 7. It's all
Yes.
about Haiti and the vicious gangland. And, you know, the prime minister, I think, yeah, it was the prime minister. You remember he was in Kenya the other day. He has not yet, as per yesterday, he had
Yeah.
not landed back in Haiti
Right.
because gangs had actually taken control of the airport. And so they don't want him back. And so it's indeed a vicious war in Haiti. And remember, we are to send our police officers there, and it will also take a concerted effort, not just from Kenya but whole world, to ensure there is peace and tranquility in Haiti. So that is on pages 6 and 7. I also see Best Lands Court Judge in 2020 faces the axe. This is JSC has sent 4 petitions to President Ruto in support of judges' removal from office. Central to the 4 petitions are 116 pending rulings did not deliver. We are talking about Narok Environment and Lands Court Judge Mohammed Kulo. An investor wants the judge investigated for ordering the destruction of a camp. Read that on page 2. Ministry wants varsities to renew course approvals every 6 months. NADCO report MPs have 45 days to approve or reject anchor bills. Read that on page 4. Back page of the Standard,
Yes.
Mary Keitani's women-only record faces biggest threat. A strong London Marathon women's field has been assembled in an attempt to lower the 2 hours 17.01 mark set by Mary Keitani in 2017. Read that back page. I also see St. Patrick Segere ready to share big stage with heavyweights. It's on page 38 and 39. Prayers answered as athletes' slots for African Games are increased. Number of athletes to the Continental Games has been increased from 30 to 51. AK named a strong team after the completion of trials at Nyayo National Stadium. That is on page 37.
Beautiful. All right. Let us look at the Daily Nation. And of course, the very first story is on fighting the battle. A drinking nation, Kenya waging war on alcoholism crisis, ravaging millions of youths. And I think the damage has been on the youths more than anything, because they are literally wallowing in this pit of alcoholism and not even realizing what they were created for. They don't even realize what they were brought in this world for. And then from that leads to depression, leads to suicidal thoughts, because we have suicidal incidences happening so many times, especially among our youth. So this is a cycle of death, literally a cycle of death, because they get addicted, that the next thing they're in the wrong company, they're in the wrong places, and so many youths. I mean, I can't even begin to imagine how many youths in house parties you hear have fallen from the rooftop down. Even someone who I knew personally, that same thing happened to them, whereby you're just scrolling through Citizen Nini, uko tu kwenye news, and then I see the face of someone I actually know. And then the next thing I look at and I'm like, what? I mean, it made me weep for hours, because I was like, how? I mean, you hear these stories happening elsewhere, but now it's someone you know. And I've lost so many people that I used to know, even in the university I was in. Like literally, they drink, and then the next thing they're in house parties, there's a fight, they're thrown off the building, or you find someone is just in a river dead. And when you trace back walikuwa sherehe, you trace back walikuwa sherehe. We have a lot of deaths that are happening that are not even being reported of our youth in drinking sprees. So this is a menace that needs to be fought with everything. Even the religious leaders have to wake up and stand up, so that alcoholism will be a thing of the past. It's become very bad, and we are losing our youth to this bondage, which is really, really unfortunate.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, and moving on to other news on the Daily Nation, the second page has a story on the doctors issue strike notice over CBAs, a story that we also covered yesterday. And the police officer who deliberately shot their SG arrested. Doctors Union says government has failed to honor the resolutions made on June 30th, 2017 and July 6, 2021. Look at that story in more detail on page 2. We have been, looking at news where doctors are striking. Actually, just yesterday or the other day before, we talked about them issuing a 7-day strike, putting
notice,
down, their tools and all that. So this is just more information on the same. You can get to find that story on page 2. And looking at page 3, I see union calls for audit of teacher promotions. Just yesterday we said we had, they will begin to receive their new salaries. But
laughing all the way to the bank.
Yes, so many teachers have received promotion. But I see here union is calling for audit of teacher promotions. Nat Kupet alleged graft and favoritism amid complaints from thousands of tutors. Now it's those who were not given the promotion. What criteria did you use? What was the criteria? Because that now becomes the big question. And that's a story on page 3. I also see battle looms in ODM as Raila's exit with appetites for top seat. Similarly, there's a vicious power struggle in Luo Nyanza politics. That is on politics, and that is on page 4. On page 5, of course, it's still the story that we were talking about on tribalism. I see here it's a Kikuyu Kalenjin civil service. Shockingly, not a single person from 9 ethnic groups has a public job. Oh my. The two communities control 36.25% of all positions in ministries and state agencies. PSC report shows. I mean, this started just as a small story, but now it has grown big because now there's more investigations looking at those public servants and they're realizing
inclusivity is important.
Yes.
Every Kenyan should feel part and parcel of this nation.
Including Kisses.
Anyway. I should have seen that coming.
Moving on swiftly. Very less. We stay in that.
I know.
Even Prince is laughing.
I know.
Anyway, page 6, I see EACC sues Ruby's Biwott Farm for 1.6 billion over prime land. That's a story on page 6. I see anti-graft body tables, evidence on the fraudulent and illegal excision of public land. That's a story on page 6. And moving forward, remember on 8th March, I'm just reminding you so you don't forget to send that message.
Yeah.
International Women's Day. There will be a gala happening. I know there will be so many events happening in different places, but we will be celebrating International Women's Day on the 8th of February 2024. And I looked at the theme for this year, and it's actually it's about investing in women, because that helps to grow the society. So it's all about investing in women, investing more in women. And I see here on the back page, of course, it's just the Haiti issues. I see police deployment in question as Haiti situation worsens. Look at that story on the back page. And on the sports page, Bandari FC increased ticket price for Gor game by 500%. High-profile match will be held at the 5,000 capacity Mbaraki Club on Saturday. And in other news, I see Nakuru's first tartan track coming up nice and bloom at Afraha Stadium. Phase 1 renovation work expected to be completed in June as country eyes hosting international sports events. And I also see here Kenya will be the biggest loser if World Volleyball Body governing withdraws its technical support. I see here we need to ask ourselves if KVF can afford to take this team to Europe for a training camp. That is from the Samuel Gasharira, who is on the side of the pitch side. So that's it for the Daily Nation,
Right.
the sports pages.
Quickly, Business Daily BD, Talo Oil sued for 284 billion shillings over environment violence. Turkana residents accuse farm of degrading environment. Residents are seeking a $2 billion environment bond. I also see the story you have covered, the 9 tribes with 0 public jobs. Ruby's Biwott Farm sued over 1.6 billion city land row, and Safaricom dealers kick out team over contract fallout. And new medical insurance listing starts tomorrow. So the government will kick off registration for the Social Health Insurance Fund tomorrow. Health CS Susan Humicha saying the process would start after the gazettement of the regulations, which are at the office of the Attorney General. And so you can read that and much, much more inside the Business Daily.
All right. So we've come to the end of our newspaper review segment, but be sure to listen to Hope FM, because at the top of every hour, we have news updates. And of course, right here on Hope TV Kenya, we have Dira at exactly 7 p.m. and Newswatch at 9 p.m. Coming up is the video of the day.
Bado niko pale tu kwa Wakisi.